Welcome from Barcelona, EIBTM 2013. You're watching the program of the Fresh track here in the Via Vera. And we will start in 15 minutes with the track on meeting formats and later on hybrid events. This is going to be an interactive session, so you will be able to communicate with the speakers, and I will organize this and make sure that your questions are getting to stage. You can do that by using the hashtag EIBTM hybrid. So hashtag EIBTM hybrid. That's the hashtag you can use to interact with us here live from Barcelona EIBTM. As you can see, people are getting in the room right now, walking through, but that doesn't matter. Then you can see it's real live what's going on here. If you have never been to EIBTM, I'll explain a little bit what it is. EIBTM stands for Events, Incentives, Business Trips and Meetings. And it's the global exhibition for meeting planners and event professionals taking place every year here in Barcelona in November. And the streams you're going to watch later on, they are the Fresh tracks. As you can see behind me, the Fresh conference is taking place in January in Copenhagen for the third time. And Fresh is a fresh way of looking at meeting design and meeting architecture. The Fresh conference is offering these sessions here on EIBTM to share the whole idea of fresh and innovative meeting design. And the director of Fresh, Maarten van Neste, he will be here shortly for an interview. He's going to, somebody's going to find Maarten now. Sorry, it's a bit fuzzy, what's going on here. People trying to do a rehearsal. I don't know if you can see it. Can we have a shot from the, from stage? No, I'm afraid we can't. Well, anyway, what you're going to see, is a session on meeting formats and later on hybrid events. And Maarten van Neste is involved in both of them. And yes, there he is. Hi. Hi Maarten, welcome.
Thank you.
We need to use this microphone, both of us. My first question is, what is Fresh? Because the people watching, they probably don't know what Fresh is. And everybody seems to start talking about it.
Yeah.
So what is Fresh?
The Fresh is actually a brand for a number of events, mainly the Fresh Conference plus a number of other smaller events that address meetings and events in a way that they become fresh. And it's because meetings are done the same way since many, many years, and many people feel there is a need for improvement, and there is lots of stuff happening in technology. So it's all about refreshing the way we do meetings in many, many ways. And the goal ultimately is to improve the effectiveness of meetings and events.
And what is Fresh? What is Fresh for you? What is the most innovative change you have seen the last years, and what can we expect for the coming years?
I think the industry is waking up to the idea of designing meetings that are more effective. I think we have a young industry still, 30 years old, and so it's an industry that is growing as far as its own business is concerned. And this industry is now waking up to the second leg, I think, of meetings and events, which is the content side. So I think meeting planners are getting more and more aware of what they can do and how they can influence meetings and how they can design meetings so they become more effective. So I think that's the main innovation, I think, for our industry.
The Fresh conference is taking place in January 2014 in Copenhagen again. For whom is this conference? Which people should attend?
I think it's a very interesting mix of people. We have a large group of senior meeting planners from corporate, association and agencies. And besides that, we also have people that are professionally involved in meetings, people like you that do social media, that do online moderation, people that are producers, people that are facilitators. So it's a very rich mix of people. Also a professor in education, there's all kinds of smart people getting together to talk about all these topics that can help us to make meetings more effective. So it's really a very interesting mix. And the second component in our group is a smaller component. It's the suppliers, but there are almost no hotels and destinations there. So most of the suppliers are technology companies or meeting design companies or companies that do all kinds of things that also would then make meetings more effective.
What will we learn when people are watching now and think you have an interesting story, they want to come to Copenhagen and participate? What is the takeaway for them?
For Copenhagen, you experience a lot of different things. You experience different meeting formats. You work with technology. You see people do different things, present in different ways, facilitate a meeting in different ways, getting co-creation going in different ways. So you experience a lot. And so the takeaway is hopefully a bigger toolbox. So you go home with a toolbox that is bigger than the one that you came with, so that when you start designing meetings, you can really use all those ideas and techniques and tools and services from our sponsor members to design meetings that are more effective.
How many people do you expect?
It's hard to say. We grew last year with about 30%. If you look at the buzz that is happening right now, right here at EIBTM, it's hard to say, but I think we will definitely reach something like 200 participants.
Okay, that's quite a lot. You're also moderating and hosting 2 sessions here today. What can you share from the first session about meeting formats?
First session on meeting formats has about 4 speakers that bring some examples of meeting formats, but also some techniques that you can apply in meeting formats. I'll do a little introduction on atomic space, which is the acronym for the building blocks of meeting formats. So it's a little bit of theory there. And then we have some co-creation moments happening where people can give their ideas on how to take this forward or what they do and share with each other. So that's for the meeting formats. And then the session this afternoon, it starts at 1 o'clock, is on the hybrid component. And we're looking at how 5 different perspectives, the meeting owner, the speaker, the remote participants, how they look at remote participants and how they feel they can improve what they do, etc., etc. So, and Ruud Janssen is leading that session, so it's not going to be me.
All right. Well, I hope our online and remote participants will share their thoughts on that one. Yeah. You are not fresh. You're not just fresh. You are fresh, but you are not just a fresh conference. You're also from EBIT. And what's the role of EBIT in this EIBTM show?
Well, we're happy to sponsor some of the audiovisual presentation techniques and the sets, etc., things like that. So that's what we do here.
Okay, great. I want to ask you to kick off this live stream session to give our online audience their ribbon.
How do I do that? Put it on the lens?
I think so. Just find a way. At least show it to the audience, because everybody here is wearing, of course, the badge from the exhibition, but also the I'm Fresh ribbon. So if you also want to be fresh, stay tuned and come to Copenhagen. Right. Thank you very much. Perhaps you can ask Ruud. I can see he's walking there to tell a little bit. Okay, thank you. And in the meantime, I'll check if there's questions from the online audience. Because we would love to see when you're watching. Okay, I can see people watching. So I should have been there. No, it would be nice to join online as well, hopefully. Okay, I don't think there's questions yet, but I'll quickly check. And otherwise we have Ruud standing here. If you have any questions or comments to share, please use hashtag EIBTM hybrid. That's the one I'm monitoring here. And if you have any comments or questions, please share them through this hashtag. Hi, Ruud. Hi. I'm fine. The people cannot hear you. You have to use the microphone. So say it again.
Hello and welcome to the session. We're going to start in what, 6 minutes, Katie? Is that right?
We'll start in 5 minutes. Yeah, we're counting down. We start off with the meeting format session, and then what time is your session starting?
Well, we're having a series of different meeting formats that will be presented. So Martin is kicking off, and then we'll start off with just an 8-minute description of the solution room, which normally is a session that's held at the very end of a conference. So we're reverting the formats a little bit, so we're kicking it off like that. And then I think Gerrit Heikoop is taking on from me with the second session format, and we have back-to-back sessions that we'll be presenting in 11-minute cycles, 8-minute presentation, 3 minutes Q&A. So make sure you ask your questions. So when they come in here, Gerrit will prompt it to us here in the room, and then we will be able to deal with your questions if you send it on time. So hashtag EIBTM hybrid, that's the one, right? Without the 13. EIBTM hybrid, yes. Great. So I'm looking forward to this. So this is a little marathon that's going on today. I think there's a lot of back-to-back sessions going on. And then you may want to join us at 1 o'clock this afternoon. We'll have a session that will be, we're going to see if remote participants are a pain in the neck. And we're going to see if we can come up with pain relievers for the neck pains that sometimes remote participants, so you are the pain relievers, but also the pain creators, right? At least that's what we're going to be testing, an hypothesis.
And how can our online participants can prepare for that session? What do you want to know from them?
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is very specific functions of anonymity, or functions of communication, and how they're being experienced from different angles. So for the people that do the technical production, like Paul van der Herk is sitting here with a whole team of technologists that are making this work and making sure everything functions, but also the meeting owner. So Martin will be our meeting owner and looking at it from one of the tables with other meeting owners. They're going to be looking at one function of communication, like for instance anonymity or scalability, or things like search, or should it be written or oral, the information, and what do all of those functions of communication, what do they mean for the different perspectives? The meeting owner, the speaker, the participant online, the technical production, and everybody will give their views on what that one function of communication means for them. So we're going to do a little lottery, and we're going to see if we can extract key things from experiences that people have had, maybe at the Fresh conference, maybe at these hybrid type events or other hybrid events. And then we'll ask them to give us their views, and we're going to share them in the room. So I think a lot of these things people know already. We just have to isolate one perspective, one function of communication, and think about that quite deeply.
Well, if you are watching this, so you can actually participate in this hybrid session in this afternoon by sharing what you're experiencing online during this hybrid event. That's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
Between 1 and 2:30 Central European Time, between 1 o'clock and 2:30 Central European Time, we'll be dealing with those functions of communication. And then, now up in 2 minutes, we're going to be starting this session on meeting formats. So I think we have to get ready now, Gerrit.
Yeah, you have to. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're counting down. A few minutes to go before we go live here on stage in Barcelona. People are getting in slowly, and I'm just checking if there is any questions you have or any comments to make. We'd like to know where you're from, and if you are in your office or if you are at home working and following this session here from EIBTM. So please let us know. Send us just a quick tweet with hashtag EIBTM hybrid, telling us where you are and where you're watching from. Okay. Yeah. Well, as said, we started at 11. I don't know if it will be 11 sharp, but I see the speakers slowly getting to stage and people getting in here. People in the room are very quiet. They think I'm live, where it's just the online audience which can hear me. It's a bit funny. Everything is being prepared. It's quite a nice show. I'm visiting the exhibition floor yesterday. There are so many countries in the world sharing their best what they have in business, events, incentives, trips, meetings. so you can make a trip around the world if you plan to visit Barcelona next year. That's a bit how it feels. You meet people from the whole planet, which is actually quite nice, of course, to share thoughts. And that's what we're going to do here, sharing ideas on new meeting formats. So if you're interested in meeting formats and how to do things in a different way, stay tuned, because we will start soon. And if you have questions on meeting formats, please share them here. You can see much more of the program and the things which will be discussed on the EIBTM website, of course, but also on the website of the Meeting Support Institute, the Meeting Support Institute. If you Google that, meetingsupport.org, there you'll find the complete program with all the topics which will be discussed soon here. Just take a quick look. I think they'll start a little bit later, because the room is filling up right now. Yeah, everybody is waiting, I think. Let's see if you have any questions or comments to make. I can see Femke Vrij. She's following from the Netherlands. And she's making a comment, so I should have been there. Well, it's nice to be here, of course, but isn't it great that you can just follow a little bit through this live stream? And Sanne Julles is also following. Hi, Sanne. Good you're there. She's following from Amsterdam Rai, from her office. Well, that's cool. I think she has been following yesterday as well. I hope we can provide you a little bit interaction, Sanne, today. We'll start in a few minutes now. People are getting in, speakers are getting to stage. I don't think you can have a shot from stage, but as soon as they start, the camera is switching to the main stage, of course. If you have questions, comments, thoughts you want to share during the session, please tweet them, because I'm monitoring them. And if there's questions you want to ask to the speakers, I will be your voice to the audience. So just go ahead. Please do so. When you don't see me, it doesn't mean that I'm not there. I'm still here. And I will try to translate as good as I can what's happening here, and give comments to the live stream. But I'm monitoring the Twitter hashtag, so please share your comments. If the other people are watching, like Femke, where are you watching from? Can you share that on the hashtag EIBTM Hybrid? Well, if you are just tuning in and wondering what this is all about, we are live streaming from the EIBTM exhibition in Barcelona. This is the global exhibition on business trips, events, meetings, and incentive trips. It's a yearly event in November, and the whole meeting industry is meeting here. Thousands and thousands of people and hundreds of booths. Fresh is a brand for meeting designs. They are covering 2 sessions here right now, which are live streamed, and I have the honor to moderate them. Well, I think they will almost start now, but it can take a little while. Well, this is about, you're going to watch a live stream on new and inspiring meeting formats. A toolbox for meeting design, as Maarten just explained during the interview. You can find the program on the EIBTM website or on the website of the meetingsupport.org. There is a detailed program, and you also find the speakers there. If there is no questions for this moment, and I don't think there is, but perhaps people are using a different website. Oh, I'm following from Barcelona with a cold, so I'm at home. Oh, that's really cool. Well, I hope you feel okay, Sarah. Nice that you are following us on the live stream. And this is, of course, one of the advantages of live streaming events, that also people who are at home and who are ill can follow. What we hear quite often is people who cannot attend because they have something work to do, and when they're not able to get to the live event, then it's nice to follow online. Like Sarah now, though she is from Barcelona, so she's close, but still it's nice that she can follow here online from home. Well, thank you for telling us where you are and where you're from. If there's more people watching online, please share with a tweet where you're from and where you're watching, if it's in your office or online. And we would love to see pictures, of course. But okay, yes, that was Maarten. He was just telling me that they're going to start on the main stage. So, well, let's enjoy the presentation and the session on new meeting formats, and continue tweeting. If there's something you want to ask to the speakers, just tell me, and I will make sure that your question is asked to the speakers. #EIBTM hybrid. And I'll be back with you after this session. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody. I am very pleased to see you all here for a 90-minute session on meeting formats. One of the challenges we have with meeting formats is that people tend to sit in the back of the room, and we need them in the front of the room. Is that not something you recognize when you organize meetings? We're all meeting professionals, so I can ask you, please, to move to the, not the first row, but the second row. So can we fit everybody into the second row? That would be nice. We're also going to do some collaboration stuff. We have 2 moments of idea collection. So at least 1 laptop or iPad per table would be handy. It's going to just be a URL. You go to the website and you can type in some text. So we have all the speakers sitting on the first row here. That makes them a little more important. Groups of 6 is ideal. A little more, a little less is fine. Meet new friends is also good when we do this. Exchanging business cards is fine. And I would say this room is way too big for this session, to avoid saying that there's not a lot of people showed up. But I think you are here, and that is most important. You are here because you want to be here, and you chose to be here, so you're very welcome, and we are happy to have you, and we will make sure that this remaining 85 minutes will be worth your while. We have a number of speakers here today that are going to help us with this session. But I am going to start with a little piece of theory, and I will use a few drawings to explain what I'm talking about. And so I am now in the hands of our technician that is helping us with this wonderful set here today, and here we go. So, meeting formats. It's quite an interesting topic. There is a lot of stuff we can do, and at the Fresh Conference, this is where we also experiment with meeting formats. We've done some idea collection at the Fresh Conference with the people that were there, and it's all about meeting design. And we collected 120 ideas roughly in about 10 minutes time. We started to sort them into groups because, you know, some of them looked alike. And then we came up with a small number of what we call building blocks for meeting formats. Because if you want to build your own meeting formats, there's a number of things you can do to make that happen. There's a number of elements that you can use to make a meeting format work specifically for an audience, and a specific audience and a specific objective. So we start with the first element that we came up with, and obviously that is the participant, the audience, the attendee. It's the looking at who are the people in the room, what is what are the demographics, do we have sales and clients mix, do we have marketing and communication people together, how do we want to, where do we want to put them, do we want to put them in small groups, do we want to mix them, do we want to sort them. So the attendee is our first component of, first building block of meeting formats. Second one is the time. You know, a session starts at 11 o'clock and it ends at 12:30. So that's the time you have. And what do you do within that time? What do you do, you know, at the beginning, in the middle, and the end? So designing a meeting format is about, you know, putting all these things into a scenario, and that is your time element. There is another element that also starts with a T, and that is techniques. So, for example, having a discussion at a round table is a technique. So you can have different techniques that you put in a timeline, and that becomes your meeting format. It's another building block of meeting formats. Then another one with a T is tools, because you can have pens and paper, you can have iPads, you can have something, you know, going on online, you can have all kinds of tools, voting, or, you know, whatever you want to use. So those are the tools, and that's all with the letter T. And next is obviously something that is crucial in any meeting is the objectives. It's learning, networking, motivation, or motivation, networking, and learning. And those three objectives will definitely influence the meeting format and how you design it. Then the next one is movement. So do you make your participants move? And I did make you move because you were sitting in the back and I made you move to the front. So that one is covered. Next is the levels of interaction. Will you be listening the entire time? Will you also be talking? And you know, how do we play with that interaction? Will you be giving your ideas as well? You know, these are different levels of interaction, and we call those, the interaction is with the letter I. And then the last one is the variation, the change you bring into a session. Because if I'm going to be here 90 minutes and entertain you, I will have to have a very good story and the skill of doing that. And in many cases, your speakers don't have that skill because they're experts in something, technology or whatever. And so, you know, if you could create some variation over time and make speakers speak, and then you have discussion, and then there's feedback, etc., that gives kind of a flow where you have a variation, and that variation keeps people awake and sharp, and they learn more. So now, this is the final letter, atomic, as you can see, to make it easy to remember. And the last letter is the letter S for space. And so it's atomic space. And atomic is also a good word because I think this is what you could see yourself to be one of those atoms. And by, you know, creating a good meeting interaction, we have those atoms collide and form new connections, like in chemistry. And that's why I think, you know, atomic is an easy way to remember this. So I think that's enough for theory for today. We have a couple of interesting speakers coming up next. These are some more images from the Fresh Conference, and here you can see this is the meeting room in Copenhagen. And just the next photo will show you a different setup. Here people are really sitting in rows, so this is the theater style. And before that, they were sitting in small circles. And the next one is going to be something else, where we have a circle of people with a facilitator, and they're having a discussion in the corner. And the next design is people using technology, just sitting with 4 people in a circle. And so you can do a lot when you move furniture around, when you move people around. You can do a lot that is going to create variation and interesting meeting formats. So I think that's my last slide. And I would like to invite the next speaker on stage, who is going to show us a little bit about a meeting format, which is very precisely scripted. So it's a very nice demonstration of what a meeting format can be for you. This is a meeting format you could decide to use in the future, but obviously you can also design your own. But this is one of the made to measure or kind of ready to use meeting formats. Ruud Janssen, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for that introduction. We're going to start with the end. When you design, it's good to design with the end in mind. The other apology I need to make is that I need to participate in a session at 12 o'clock, which is why I was practically moved to the beginning of the session. So I already covered 2 of these components, right, on the atomic ladder that Martin was just presenting. The format that I'd like to introduce you was the result of a bold meeting organizer that planned nothing for the last 90 minutes of their conference. Planned nothing. White space. Okay? There was nothing in the program. And they put the problem onto the faculty at the conference to come up with something at the end of the conference that was going to create value for the participants. And this is what happened. The faculty got together. We began design something because we know that during a conference there's so much new information that you do, so many new components that come at you. At the end you need time to digest that information. And so what we try to do is listen really carefully to the participants and find out how it is that they actually learn best and action their learning. The movement at the very end there that you saw is when you start applying things. And really when you start thinking about how people listen, there's many, many different ways that you can interpret communication, and many things can go wrong. So we said, let's focus on that component. And that's how we came up with this format called the Solutions Room. And this is a little video to just kind of show you, which illustrates how we introduced the session. This is drawn by Christine Niegaard, as Mike van der Vijver and myself were talking over a Skype conference when we were doing the next formats iterations of the Solution Room. And really what this session does is it puts you, as a participant of the conference, out of your comfort zone by having you think of one action that you want to action as a result of having attended the conference. Okay? And 7 people in the same room consult you on your problem. But there's a very strict format that we do. Okay? And by playing this little video at the beginning, people get really annoyed by the sound of this little sound that's in the background and really want to get to action. Yeah? The next step is we do a human spectrograph where we line up the amount of experience of people in the room, and then we calculate how much value of computing power we have in the room. Right? So let's say there's 150 people that have 100 euros average hourly salary, and we see that the median is 15 years. You can calculate exactly the value of that power in the room. And what happens after that lineup is that we then ask people to think very carefully about one thing they want to action, right? And then they have to determine, is it very easy for me to solve this problem, or is it extremely difficult to solve the problem, and move on a visual gradient. And we randomize them at tables of 8, very much like here. We have big butcher paper on the table, so the whole table is covered with paper and nothing else. And what we then do is that we come up with kind of, and I'll show this video in the background where you see this in action, where what happens in practice is that people from very different places where we've tried this start writing down the problem in front of them, but before they start then actioning it, we ask everybody to get up and move 1 seat to the left. So they give their problem up for adoption to their neighbor. That's a big relief. And then we take 7-minute cycles in which 7 people in that table consult the problem in front of them, and the one that had the problem is listening to all the solutions that 7 other people are bringing to them. Now this session takes 90 minutes, it's very carefully scripted, as I said, and what happens is, let's say through this cycle, which you will find on solutionroom.info, there's a website just about this. I encourage people to use it, but when you use it as well as you possibly can. That's my recommendation. And the only favor in return is that we ask people to send us pictures about the application of the solution room. Okay? At the very end, what happens is this dynamic, the table is completely filled with solutions to the problems. Everybody gets back up and moves to the line, to the human spectrograph in which they were, where they identified how easy or how difficult it was to solve the problem. And then we see the shift that has occurred as a result of this. Now, at the first conference that Meeting Professionals International did in Düsseldorf, and I remember there Miranda van Broek was bold enough to actually plan those 90 empty minutes. This was a very dynamic situation. And after that last question, we asked people to do this lineup and identify, as a result of having attended this solution room, how many new, interesting people did they meet they would otherwise not have met if they left the conference early or had had a closing general session with yet another motivational speaker. And we could see the whole line going from I met 0 people to I met 5, 6, 7 people that were very interesting and had a very in-depth conversation with. And the one request that people had was, I wish we had had more time to talk about those problems and those solutions to my problems. They went back to the table, ripped up everything, took pictures, were hugging. The biggest problem we had is you can't stop the session at the end, right? So the conference doesn't officially end. People just keep going afterwards. They keep in contact. And that's kind of, let's say, the format of the solution room in itself, which brings the power of the participant to the availability of the other participants. And many of these solutions can actually be solved by your peers, right? Depending on the configuration. This was at a conference recently, United Nations conference in Bali, Indonesia, where internet governance was being tackled. And you can see that the problems that are being discussed are graphically illustrated. Some people just write little words. Some make it very cryptic. Sometimes the papers become completely filled up. And we even hear many people that just rip this up and put it on their reminder board back at home. And then we write the outcomes on a postcard, which are then sent 2 months after them. So they write their takeaways on a postcard. And the postcard is then sent to them 2 months later as a reminder to yourself of what you promised that you would do. So the moderators do really nothing. They just moderate a process. The hard work and heavy lifting is done by the participants. And the energy and dynamic in the room is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the most enjoyable sessions that I see happening. Unfortunately, I've never participated in one because usually I moderate it. So this is a call to everybody in the room. Please organize a solution room so I can participate for once. Okay? I'd like to. I've got many problems I'd like to solve. Yeah. So again, check out solutionroom.info. Give us your feedback if this is something that would work for you, if you would like to try it. Recently, there was a banker from North Dakota that came across the solution room. She had participated in one of these. She was the educational chair for the committee that was putting together their conference, and they tried this with just a set of instructions, and she sent me a full overview of what they did as a case study. I really appreciated that because that allows us to improve the format in itself. So Mike van der Vijver and I are very active in trying to improve the format, and under Creative Commons share that with all those that want to be using it. And I highly encourage you to try something like this if you haven't done that before. So with that, I did exactly the opposite of what the solution room does. I've explained to you in 8 minutes what it's supposed to do. That's the normal peer time, times 7, that you would get around the table. Okay? So I broke all the rules of design that Martin was just saying. The attendees, I didn't make them move, right? The participants and the engagement that we created here was purely connected to what's happening here. There wasn't any interaction at your tables. Imagine the solution room at the end of your conference to be the exact flip side of this. And with that, I'd like to invite Martin back to see if we can harvest some questions.
Yes.
Huh?
Do we have questions? That's a good one. The classic is you do a 60-minute session, which is 55 minutes of presentation and then 5 minutes of Q&A. You know, what we've done here is one of the things you can see is one of the elements of meeting design, and one of the components in meeting formats is chunking it into smaller pieces. We made our life a little more difficult by having 5 different speakers, but you could ask your speaker, if you have one speaker, to chunk his presentation as well. Now, Ruud, I was actually part of one of the solutions,
the first experiment.
The first one, yeah.
Back in Düsseldorf.
So proud. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure you refined it even more now, but I found it a very enjoyable session. And it's as you say, it's really well scripted, and you facilitated this very well, and this was really flowing, and so I really enjoyed it. Would you have like a recommendation on size, group size, minimum group size for this, or?
We've tried it with as little as 16 people. I feel at this stage it works best with between 100 and 300. We've tried it with 1,200, which works very well, but you need ample space. So something when you talk about the room setups and the formats, if you would use this room for a solution room, You would take out the last 2 rows of tables probably. Make sure there's no kit, like now we have the hybrid live stream in the back where Gerry is moderating things. You would need like a complete free space either in the front or in the back of the room to do these human spectrographs. And a clear, saying, the left wall is this, the right wall is this. But having that open space is critical. So 60% of the room is rounds of 6. And 40% of the room should be room to move.
Okay, do we have any questions in the room right now?
Has anybody participated in one of these solution rooms, maybe?
I did.
Okay. Yes?
I just would like to know if you have the circle on the table, do you have any tips for the process of how to find a correct or an interesting problem? I mean, everybody has its problems,
yes,
and then everybody wants to have solved maybe his problem. Do you have any tips for that?
So one of the things that I found very powerful that we started testing in subsequent editions, we did it actually at the very first one, almost by accident, which was a good accident. We asked people to just, when they were in that first lineup, of experience, we asked them to shut their eyes, and we left a minute of silence where we asked them to take out the mini guide of the conference, so their little conference guidebook, and try to address one of the issues they came across in either one of the sessions, one of the tracks, one of the coffee breaks, maybe in one of the conversations. Maybe it was out of the context of the conference whilst they were at the conference. And we asked them to go through their customer journey, right? So what did I do when I went to the conference? What did I think about? And then they extracted one thing. That's one way of doing it. If you have a group of people that are trying to crack a problem, you could also make it even more specific to address the specific thing that you would like to have addressed at that table and exert stuff like that. The powerful mechanism we discovered later was that if you take pictures of the actual outputs on the tables, that is kind of the primer for the inputs for your next conference. That's what's going on between the ears of your participants. And that's certainly a good way of kind of channeling what to address. Did that address your question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ruud Janssen.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, one more question.
Sorry, just one more question. I don't understand
Yes.
exactly. So every participant around the table comes with his own problem, right? The
Correct.
one biggest.
Correct.
And how, do you discuss every one problem, or do you?
Very good question. So the problem that's in front of you has a circle around it, right? So after everybody wrote down that problem, you then ask everybody to get up, move one seat to the left. So you give your problem up for adoption to your neighbor. Then what I usually do is ask the first person that took the pen in the middle of the table, they start with addressing the problem in front of them. So it's their neighbor's problem. After 7 minutes, you transition to the next person. After another 7 minutes, you transition to the third person. And in 7-minute increments, you go around the table. And that's why it takes 90 minutes to do this full session.
So you keep the seats after the first change,
Yes.
you keep the seats and just go around the table.
And here's a golden facilitation tip. It's really hard when you have 1,200 people in the room that are really engaged and talking, and the atoms are bouncing off and about, to make them move to the next person. What we ask them to do is, if you can hear me, raise both hands. And just say it very softly and walk around the room. Everybody start raising their hands. And we have a built-in mechanism when you raise both hands, you stop talking. It's very strange, okay? So that's just a little facilitation tip.
Thank you, Ruud.
Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker is Michael Gerard from Barco. Barco, the projection machines, as you know. And they've developed a new piece of technology that actually is pretty exciting to see, and it may have some influence in the future of meeting formats. So, Michael, the floor is yours.
I wonder. Is the mic on? Okay. Turn my computer on.
Here is your first slide.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Maarten. It was actually Maarten from the Meeting Support Institute who picked up the idea of presenting this technology to this group of meeting professionals. I'm honored to do so because I move now amongst meeting professionals and we want to bring technology at your disposal, great technology, new technology. Typically what I'm going to present is something we find in small to medium-sized meeting rooms, but it brings so much collaboration, interactivity into those meeting rooms that we think, together with Maarten from the Meeting Support Institute, that this can be a valuable asset to make a meeting format around it. Now, what is the product about? We want to solve some commonly known issues. The product is called ClickShare. ClickShare. You'll soon recognize what we mean with that. And it can be, or it is becoming, let's say, a game-changing way of holding meetings. We've launched the product a year ago, and it's quickly penetrating into meeting rooms and solves issues like one that we all know is that we're all more or less afraid of cables. We enter in a room and we know that there's a cable to connect to a display or a projector, and a majority of the people who enter that room, they really wonder, okay, am I going to have the right cable for my computer? Is my computer, my laptop, going to have the right resolution to meet or to show my presentation on that projector? And despite the fact that technology moves at an increasingly high speed, this still is an issue. Now, we must be honest, we will not get rid of cables. We see them all over the place, and in order to reach, let's say, the highest standard of workability, the best quality, we still need those cables. But we can still, more and more, we can use wireless networks to solve or to avoid using cables. The other trend we are looking at is BYOD. Do you all know BYOD, what it stands for? Nobody does? More or less. It's something like that. People come to work and they bring more and more, they bring their own devices. They don't use only corporate laptops or corporate devices, but they come to work, they bring their iPad, they want to show data from their iPad. They even bring smartphones and want to show pictures from family. That's called bring your own device. It's, let's say, a headache for IT, but it's a great opportunity for enhancing interactivity, create creativity, or bring creativity to the meetings. And we want to bring a solution to that as well. The third one, it's a trend or a request from meeting planners and also executives that they want to bring more and more collaboration in the room. People tend to work less in the office, work remotely, and when they come to the office, they really want to meet and they want to hold effective meetings. So they want to share data easily, effectively, fast, with the right tools. Now, Barco has developed a product called ClickShare. By the way, Barco in Spanish stands for boat. In all other countries, Barco stands for a projector. Now, we do not only make projectors, we now make also wireless presentation systems, and ClickShare is one of them. So what we'll do is, in this room, we'll create a wireless network, and by means of a USB button, I will have a connection with that wireless network. So I come with whatever device. This time it's my Dell laptop. I come into the room and I take this dongle. It's a USB Wi-Fi device. It will search, or it will identify a network within this room, make a connection to it, and as soon as I have a connection, I'll be able to share the data that I have from my laptop on that screen. So as you see, my button is blinking, searching connection to the Wi-Fi, and as soon as the button is not blinking anymore, I'll be on screen. Okay. So we've now switched to the ClickShare input. I'm now sharing the presentation from my laptop to the screen. I'm also sharing the presentation from my iPad to the screen, and I can add a third and a fourth device. So as you see, I have my presentation here. Maarten is popping in as he has a USB dongle, and he is showing his presentation. If he wants to take ownership of this screen, where is Maarten? He pushes the button for 2 seconds, and he takes the full screen. So this is a tool that brings you on screen fast, makes it interactive, and I'm taking over the screen again. Okay. And we believe, together with Martin, that we can build some concepts, some meeting formats around that technology, like bringing creativity into certain teams. Okay. Yeah.
Mic number 1, thank you. So this is a quick introduction to Barco ClickShare, and we would like to get you on board now to see how you think you can apply this into your own meetings and events. And so I don't know if it's clear, because you've never, most of you have never seen this before, I guess. But simply put, if you would have a panel of 4 speakers with 4 laptops, they could all plug in one of those buttons and just push whenever they want to have their stuff on the screen. So in a debate, for example, you could have one microphone and people could fight. They could fight for the microphone. And I want to speak now, and at the same time they could also use this button to take over the screen in a way. So it could be enriching in a debate, for example. Mm-hmm. Now, we want to share with you a system that you can use now in the room to share some of your ideas. And you can do that, it works well with a laptop, but there is also going to be some instructions on the screen for doing this. Because iPads is also possible, and the tool is called Meeting Sphere. And so you can type in your idea. So the question is, how would you use this in a meeting format? So allowing multiple speakers. Is it 4 or can you do more than 4?
We can have up to 64 participants.
So you can have 64 tables in a room, each with their own PC, and everybody that pushes the button goes on the screen, up to 4 screens in total. So here's the login for Meeting Sphere. So you have to click on, you have to type in this login in your iPad or in your a laptop or in your Galaxy. It doesn't really matter. We would like to have 1 person per table being the scribe. So at least 1 laptop per table would work well. And do we have a question in the room? Yeah. Can we make a poll? Can you make quickly a QR code and put it on the screen? Good idea for next time. So yeah, it's a lot of typing. I see that. Can everybody read this in the back of the room? Okay, so that's doable. Thank you. And if you go to if you use your iPads, yeah, there is a need for a different browser to make it work. So that's a little exciting. So we'll give you a little more time to make that happen. Do we have a scribe at every table? Somebody taking notes in this system? It's about, we want your input now for how we will use this this device. Paul? Can we, Paul Nunesteo, can we get the screen on the input page? Do we have?
Here, we don't have yet enough answers, so if we wait a little more.
Okay.
So make sure that everyone is comfortable with logging in and establishing
Do you want to try with that one?
a link. This is a brainstorming tool that we are going to use for this session, so please be wild on your ideas. We want you to present innovative ways to use ClickShare, as you just have been seeing this presentation. Think about your own experience and your meetings.
One of the things we were, for example, thinking of is a group. If you have a group of up to 40 people, is that you would have four tables, and every table has a laptop, and every laptop is connected to the screen. So you would have four groups discussing with one person sitting behind the laptop, and this setup would be called a Clover 4. So that would be really focused on the four screens that you could have, and so you could have a collaborative effort during a session with four groups of up to 10 people, each table having one laptop, one button, and then they collaborate in this way, sharing information. Yes, we have another question. Can we have the URL back, please? This is a very nice design, but the URL is a little more functional. Do we have anyone connected, Paul?
Not yet. We don't have enough comments, so let's wait a little bit more.
Okay. Should we start with the next speaker while people are getting on board?
So could I have a show of hands who is already logged in the system? Good.
1, 2, 3, 4
Great.
people. Okay.
So please input your ideas about what you think ClickShare could be used in what type of meeting formats, or even some critiques to the system, right? So we are here with the Barco presenter.
We're very open for debate and discussion.
Send your concerns also, right, about the use of this quite innovative technology in meeting events.
So I see people typing.
No, you just type and then we'll be showing. Can we? We are going to display the...
I must say, we have done this with zero preparation. So the preparation for this started just before the meeting started. So this gives you an idea on I am really stretching it. I realize that, and I do this on purpose to see what the limit is of these things. And as you can see, the first ideas are starting to flow in. Exactly. So it's collecting text.
Yes. Maybe you would like to have a quick discussion with your partner or the neighbor sitting next to you if you want to share your input device, and we have a little bit more diversity of inputs, but we are just seeing some comments flowing in. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wants to share some of the ideas using the microphone? Any feedback already?
And also think that we have...
So verbal feedback, here we go.
I'm sorry for being a pain, but I think it's a big issue that you need to, on iPhone or iPad, to download a different browser rather than the standard browser that everybody has on the iPhone or iPad already. The fact that we all have to download a different browser first is a big hiccup, or for the system.
Yeah, I guess that is a correct remark.
That's a question you have around a comment on ClickShare or a comment
on MeetingSphere. Yes.
It's a different thing.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes, let's focus the comments on the ClickShare, please.
Okay. They can't get it work on their iPads?
Yes,
you have it, but you can't type?
If you wanted to work it on an iPad, you need to use the Puffin browser, which is an extra charge. I understand that, obviously. Okay. This is something that is not going to happen in the next version that is coming up very soon.
There's no keypad. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, it is just, I think this is enough so far. Mm-hmm. I think we have some ideas.
Okay, thank you very much for your wonderful ideas. Thank you.
Thank you for this, yes. Shall we see brainstorming in big groups to engage an online audience. Gertie, that's a good one, because actually this also works for the people at home. So anyone that was is at home and is watching this session can actually also go to the same place and type in ideas. So it's kind of a way of engaging the online audience as well. So that's a good one from Gertie on number 8 here. Good to show different pictures. Yes, I think so. Because in a debate, for example, if you have people debating about something and somebody says, well, I don't think that is true because, and he Googles a picture and wants to show it on the screen, he can actually just switch himself back on the screen. So picture sharing is definitely a nice one too. Device for computer switching. This is Meeting Sphere. Okay. To engage an online audience, we got that. Brainstorming big group to democratize and give a voice to all participants. I guess that's a very interesting basic principle behind this. And then the question, what does this cost? The price is always becoming better and better and better. So I think it's...
we can respond to it.
Barco, you want to talk?
I can respond to it. Such a system costs €4,000. And that's for large meeting rooms, and we're launching actually tomorrow, and we'll have the good thing. Yes. Oh, sorry.
ClickShare, yes.
And we're launching another version as well tomorrow, also on the show. So more news to come.
We have 15 people logged in at the moment at the system, so it takes a while. So we've done this in the middle of the session, so you as meeting planners realize that you can do this in different ways, setting it up before, giving people this information beforehand, making sure you have laptops on all the tables. There's different ways that you can use to make Meeting Sphere flow easier. But as you can see, the idea is starting to flow in, and we can now categorize those as well. You can make different categories and drag your own ideas into those folders. So that is definitely also something worth using. Okay. So yes, the people from Barco are here. There is some information if you want to know more. We have another question here in the room. Do we have the microphone available? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Good one. How do you prevent anarchy in the room?
Well, that is the whole idea about the product, is that to make it simple and interactive. We do not want to put rules into that. So in fact, it's democracy. Everybody can raise their hand and speak. If you really want to avoid people shouting like they could do in meetings, then you would need more advanced moderator tools, which are in our pipeline, but which are not in the system now. Because the principle of it is to keep it simple, interactive, intuitive. Yeah.
Okay. I think we have to move to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Michael?
Thank you everybody for participating.
Okay, and now everybody's logged in. Stay logged in because we'll have another one of those sessions later on. Now everybody's connected. Next speaker is going to focus on some of the techniques. Steen Muller, welcome on stage. There you go. You bring your own device, I see. And the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. How are you doing? Good. Do you feel involved?
Yes.
Why is it important to involve people? See, that's a good question. I'm from the Visit Denmark, so I'm from a tourist organization. And I'll bring this down to involvement in a little bit, a short while. We work with a concept called motivation. We started out working with motivation because we started with the end in mind, just as one of my colleagues here to say, we need to be sure that the return on meeting investment is as high as possible. And to do that, we tend to believe that if we involve whatever we can do locally, that could be Lego bricks, it could be brain food, it could be whatever, that we try to make people feel good when they're there. We involve them so that they get exercise. We know that the brain, this is all about the brain. This is why I brought, well, as you can see, it's a small one. It's one of my competitors. It's not filled yet. We want people to feel healthy. When they feel healthy, they will work much better. And it's all about what do we want to put into the brain of the participants. We don't want them to be delegates. We want them to be participants. We want them to participate. We know that as soon as we can involve people, there could be with a lot of different technology. It could be moving around the chairs. It could be taking the meeting somewhere else. It's all about what's the right setting for putting things into the brain of the participants in this meeting. And all about involvement. I ask you, why is it important to involve people? Why do you think it's important to involve people? They learn better. A very wise guy said, if you tell me, I forget. If you show me, I will remember. If you involve me, I understand. And if you make people understand, it will work. This is also why participating, you have two different levels of participating. Very often we talk about the physical participation. It's about moving people around. It's about making a vote. Whatever you can do is participating. You have a lot of different techniques that you can use for participating physically. One thing is the apple. How can you use an apple in participating? You can throw it, yes, you can do that. But you can also do to say, if you want to make a vote, the ones voting yes, please raise your apple. Or the ones voting no, please raise your banana. It's a simple way of doing it. It's a small thing that involves people. Instead of just having to raise your hand, you are involved. No, but you'll use that apple in a minute. Don't worry. The good thing about the apple is it's a healthy thing. It's good for the environment, and you can use it. If you serve it if you use it at around 11 o'clock in the morning, is it wise to use an apple? Could you please take a bite? Yes, please. I already did that. It's okay. Did you hear that? Don't use an apple at that point, because if 50 people are taking a bite of an apple, don't use apples. Use bananas instead at that time of day. You can use the apple just after lunch. That will be working much better. But there are two levels of involving people. There's the physical involvement, and there's the psychological involvement. And this is very much down to earth, that you can use in all the different formats, all the different techniques. It's about asking a question. What happens if I ask you a question? What did you have for breakfast this morning? Did any of you not think about it? Exactly. Nobody's not every time you ask a question, you actually start thinking about it. What am I doing then? I'm actually taking over your brain. I'm manipulating you to think about different things. It is that simple. How many times do you see presentations where you're just being told a lot of different things instead of asked any questions? I would presume this happens quite a lot. And this is a very basic thing about involvement. You can move people around, but asking a question only works if you actually have the attention. So once in a while you need to have the attention. You can do that in many different ways. Trying to get the attention. As soon as you have the attention, then you can ask the question. The question alone does not do the whole thing, but asking a question and involving people at the same time. So that one question could be, how many of you will be participating at the Fresh conference in Copenhagen in January? Please raise. Please stand up. How many of you are participating? Okay. Martin, can you take a picture so that you know who you have to approach afterwards? That's a very simple way of participating. You can also ask people to say how many are in favor of the Fresh conference. They have to move over here. Who's in doubt about it and who definitely know that they're not going to do it. And if you use this kind of very simple technique, you have those people that are in favor go in and talk to the people that are not in favor. All that kind of things if you want to facilitate a discussion. Do you know the difference between open and closed questions? The closed questions are the ones that you basically say yes or no to. Does that require a lot of involvement? A little bit, but not too much. Ask the open questions that really make you think. That's a very basic way of involving people. How many of you are using this very basic technique in meetings? A small hand. Not a lot of people. What will make the difference if you actually start involving the brain of the people in different ways? It makes a whole lot of difference. This is a very basic thing about involvement. Our concept is very big, and it's actually, I was very happy to see this presentation. I haven't seen Martin's presentation before, because all of the elements in this is what we're trying to work with in Denmark on a national basis. This makes the difference. We don't care that much about the exact format. The important for us is that the format is very suitable for exactly what do we need to gain out of this meeting. And then we have all these small techniques, the very fancy techniques, and the very simple technique that I just shared with you now. I think that will be it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steen. Thank you. Can you just share a few seconds on the program that you guys have, an educational program called Motivation? What is it exactly all about?
Yes, we have an educational program that we call this Motivation, and we are educating motivators. So we are inviting people. We have a session in the beginning of December where we're inviting some from abroad. We have a lot of Danes that are already educated, so they learn all the steps in how to make a great meeting. So we're going through how to dare asking the questions to the clients and how to implement it all the way through in all the different aspects. So that is being a certified motivator. And if it's, I would have loved to break a news here, but I don't have the news yet. I would have hoped that I could tell you that we will have the first master degree in motivation and PhD students working that direction, but I don't have the funding yet, but that will come, I'm sure, because this is interesting. This is why we support Fresh, because it's suitable for what we do.
Thank you, Steen. Thank you. Next. One of the things we're doing is publishing. There's this catalog on the table. You can take a copy for you, obviously, if you like. But Simon Waddell, who I'm inviting to the stage, is also working on a book project on meeting formats. And he's going to give us a little update on where we are with that.
Right. Gosh, it's a difference between a fit young Dane and a decrepit old Englishman. But maybe I'm a bit less decrepit now I've done some exercise. So I think this has been a great session so far, talking about formats. How many people, before you came into this room, realized there are 9 different parameters that you can work on when you're designing a session format? And I think maybe we've just developed a 10th parameter in weightlifting. So I'd like to talk to you just very briefly about a project I'm working on for Martin and with Martin. And this clock says 25 minutes and 24 seconds. I do hope that's not the length of this particular. I've got 4 minutes. Okay, great. So you've heard that Fresh 13 was all about meeting formats, where we experimented, we designed, we played, we participated, and we considered and we reviewed. And that conference was called Shaping Change, because formats, as I think we've already seen this morning, are really a tool for shaping a meeting and shaping the output and the results and the learning and the fun, the motivation that we enjoy at that conference. And out of that exercise, am I the one meant to be moving my slides forward? I'm sorry, I thought that there was a man at the back of the room who could read my mind. And how many people came to the Fresh dinner last night and saw the mind reader there? I mean, Roy Saltzman, wasn't that fantastic? He'd have had my slides right on the button. Anyway, how many people recognize this particular picture from Ikea, the kings of the flat pack furniture, ready-made ideas that you can take away with you, if you like, a ready-made furniture that you can take away with you and assemble at home. And the old gag is, of course, that you then go back to the store 4 times for the screws that are missing. Quick poll here. Who's bought some IKEA furniture in the last 12 months? Okay. And how many people assemble that furniture themselves? Okay. And how many people found there were actually bits missing and they had to go back to the store? I thought so. I think that the bits missing out of the IKEA flat pack is actually an urban myth. That I think they actually do an extremely good job. Anyway, well, that's enough promotion for IKEA. The idea was that wouldn't it be great if we could provide meeting planners and meeting designers with a resource book that would help them in using, selecting, choosing, designing formats for a meeting. And Martin asked me to help him edit such a book in the series that the Meeting Support Institute publishes on a regular basis. And Martin talked about the session, the co-creation session that we had. He talked about the 9 different parameters that we can work on in a meeting, and the fact that they make up a nice acronym, atomics. And so what we're doing at the moment is we're creating this book using a standard format which is based around atomics. So it makes it very easy for the early developing meeting designer and meeting planner to choose a format which is going to have the right combination of specific parameters to help them create an innovative meeting. We're going to, so we've come up with a standard format that we're going to work to, and each format will be described in a very consistent way, so it's very clear and easy how to use them. Together with the format description, we'll be including a number of different descriptions of different kinds of techniques that can be used, and as you heard from Martin, a technique can be, something like a roundtable discussion or some of the activities that we've done this morning. So there'll be the format templates, there'll be some descriptions of techniques, and so far we've got about 25 contributors who will be contributing format descriptions, and that number is going to increase. Something like 30 format descriptions already, so this is already quite a rich workbook. The target date was Fresh 14, which is the last week of January 2014, and I do hope you've all got that date in your diaries by now. And in the Fresh catalogue on the tables, you will find the registration code and a special discount code for people who registered during EIBTM. That was the original target date. Might not make it. I think the formal edition is going to be emerging in March. So that's a long way away, and most of you are going to forget that this great tool is going to become available in March. So if you care to leave your business card, either give it to Dominica, who's sitting in the corner over here, or is Sophia outside? No, just you. Well, either give it to Dominica or leave your business card on the table outside the meeting room as you leave, and we'll make sure that we send you some information when the book becomes available.
Or just maybe you can also subscribe. We have an iPad outside, so just type your data there, and then we are going to send you some fresh newsletter.
Okay. And clearly, IKEA has been an important idea in our approach to this work. And as I was trawling through the internet, not trolling, that's so different, isn't it? As I was trawling through the internet, I discovered the IKEA job interview cartoon, which is another format, really. Martin, when are we going to start introducing formats where people have to assemble their own seats before they can participate? Anyway, this is just a bit of fun. It's absolutely clear by now, I hope, to everyone in the room that there is a million, billion different formats out there. every inhabitant of the planet can create a different format for achieving actually quite similar objectives. So why is it we always use the same, 3, 4, 5 in all our meetings? The book that the book that we're planning to publish is just a first step. It's a first step down a road to helping people come up with and create their own individual ideas. And it's quite clear, that if you want not a piece of Ikea furniture, but something which is more bespoke, more elegant, and suited to a very specific purpose of your own, you're going to have to use and bring your own imagination to the party, and that is of course why the Meeting Support Institute organizes programs like FRESH, the FRESH conference, to help you and stimulate you in using your own imagination.
All right.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Let's take a few minutes now to have conversations around the tables about the meeting formats that you have done in the past, and that worked well, because they might inspire us as well to write another chapter for the book that Simon was talking about. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes to talk to each other around the table with about meeting formats that you have done in the past and that worked well for you. So let's have a little music in the room and 4 or 5 minutes of conversation with the people around the table.
Now you are already used to the system, and we are going to to have your comments here, not just on what are the meeting formats that work for you, but why do you think they work well, right? So take a few minutes, discuss with the neighbor, and then please input a good, wonderful piece of text.
Yeah, so we would like you to input your ideas and questions into the system.
They used in the past to discuss new ideas and new formats which are presented here today. I know there is a lot of people joining us online, so please send us a tweet and let us know who you are and where you are, because it's nice to know from which parts of the world people are joining us here in Barcelona today. We are halfway the program. This is the session on meeting formats, and this is like a break. People are discussing with each other, so please share your thoughts on this meeting format session through Twitter using EIBTM hybrid as a hashtag. I'm monitoring it, so if you have any comments or things you want to share with us here or with the other online participants, please do so. After this session, we will go to the next one, which is on hybrid events. And of course, that will be a more interactive session and also focusing on the online participants. There is Simon Wandel, but he doesn't want to be interviewed now. I know, but we will have a chance to talk to him later in between the two sessions. So if you have any questions for him about his new book on meeting formats, please send them or save them for the moment we do the interview. Well, I can imagine if you're watching us all the time that you need a break as well. So see you later online.
Yeah. I like comment number 2. So ideas are floating in already. Give us more if you have some. All right, and just so you know, we also created 2 categories, remote and face-to-face, because they seem to be more relevant as a category. And in the face-to-face folder, we have 3 ideas, and there is a remote meetings where we have 1 idea, which we can have a look at. You can probably click on that folder; it's going to open. So we're kind of sorting the ideas at the moment in a very simple way. I must say I really like the number 3 on the screen here. Who does anyone want to share this idea publicly as well? Because it's now anonymous. Do you want to raise your hand? Who put this in? Somebody from our team? No. So the third idea, what I'm interested in is to see what's an action tracker. Anyone? The action tracker? Who submitted this idea? It's anonymously. Oh, so somebody remotely, maybe. Gertie, do you have a remote participant that is actively involved? We don't know because it's anonymous, which I think is a real benefit of this system, because people can be really brutal if they want to. And so somebody was asking this question about, chaos, but this is, I think, part of the system. It's part of the way meetings are becoming more democratic. So I think that's could be a good thing. So I like the third idea, and I think we need to try this as well. And it just shows that every meeting can actually, with a little bit of creativity, you can change the format, and you can make it much more fun or much more active or interactive. So remote meetings, we use some web conference platforms, but I always feel the process is very inefficient. There is rarely any participant interaction. Is this about a webinar? Is somebody sharing this about webinars more? Or is this also a remote participant sharing this with us? It seems to be there is. Gertie, do you have any questions from the remote participants? Everybody's happy online? Very good. Okay. Then we'll move to the next speaker. We have a couple more minutes for the next speaker, who's going to be very brief. And I think he had kind of a challenging proposal. Avner from Evenium, the floor is all yours.
Good. Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. So good morning. Yes, I'm sorry to say that, but we are really convinced that only a few events formats will survive in the future. We've been providing technology to thousands of events for almost 15 years. And a few years ago, we introduced a mobile app for events to make events more engaging, more interactive, and change from the traditional format of PowerPoint presentation. Okay. And with this experience, we identified 3 main survival criteria for these new formats. So before that, let's start with an example of a real event brief we received last year from SAP. Or maybe I can start the slides. Okay. So SAP called us last year, and they had a very big event in Barcelona, just here, with 5,000 sales representatives, business partners, 300 speakers, 50 rooms working in parallel with sessions, and they wanted to create a new format for their sessions. And they wanted to use technology to make them more interactive. But they gave us 3 constraints. Each speaker will have to manage everything by himself. No consultant, no assistants, everything by himself, because there are 300 speakers. And for the rooms, it's a basic setup, no specific devices, no specific infrastructure, just a basic room setup with one PC, with the slides, one projector, one screen, and an internet access, only that. And we had only 2 weeks to do that. So it was a real challenge, and we did it with a huge adoption. All the speakers made a lot of things during the session with our technology, but the key point was that the technology was very easy to use, yes, but the key point was about the association between technology and their creativity. They used their creativity to invent things with the tools. It reminds me a story about chess game. In 1997, Kasparov lost against a computer, the IBM Deep Blue computer. It was terrible. Computer was better than humans. But the year after, he had an idea. He teamed up, Kasparov teamed up with another computer. And together, they won against the same computer. Okay? So when you have an association between a human and technology, you can reach a lot of things. You can achieve great things. So let's come to the 3 survival criteria we identified with our experience for these new event formats. The first one is linked to digital, because, as you know, everything now in the enterprise is being digitalized. Sales, marketing, human resources, everything. And the same goes for physical meetings. And the new event formats will be digital, and if they want to survive, they will have to integrate the core values of digitalization, which are transparency, participation, and knowledge sharing. What does it mean? Today, in all social networks and blogs, people speak with their real name. There is no anonymous thing, real names. You can see their private life sometimes. There is transparency. People contribute on blogs, generate a lot of content, and they share what they think it's interesting, what's interesting. So for events, it will be the same. The new formats will be conversational formats with attendees. Attendees will generate content. There won't be any anonymous contributions, like we suggested before. Who is asking this question? In the new age, everybody is with his real name. So, the content will be as much important as the speaker content. So that's, for the speakers, it's a new challenge for them, because they will have to manage things that are not planned in their meetings. The second criteria is mass market. So this is a very important point, because if you want a format to be largely spread in the economy, this format must manage from small meetings to large events, and can be handled by anybody in a company. People don't want to learn tens of different formats. Today you have the PowerPoint style presentation everywhere. Okay, so the new format will be handled by anyone and low cost, as a low cost pricing, and it leads to 2 ideas. First, technology will play a great part, and must be very packaged so that it's very, very easy to use, to connect for attendees, for the speakers, to trigger polls, and so. And let place to the creativity of speakers so that they can cover different goals of meeting: learning, motivation, as we said before, collaboration, brainstorming. Last criteria is about data and big data, which is a very big trend today. Today's format are not generating a lot of data, just a PowerPoint, maybe some tweets. But the new event formats will generate, which are digital, will generate a lot of data. And the question is how to use this data, to impact the business. So we have a few examples. Some of our customers analyze all the contribution of the attendees through the app, and one of them retrieved 1 or 2 topics, and they created a work group in the company after the event to work on that. That's the first example. Other speakers analyze all the individual polls answers and could identify hot lead for them. Okay, so that would be a key point for this new format. And to conclude, it's true that not everybody is ready for that. We see that every day. And we know now what are the people who are ready to come into this new interactive format. The first one are all marketing and sales events, because they need to retrieve information from the field. They need to know how can we improve the sales. They need salespeople to share their best practices. So they need this kind of bottom-up conversation for the business. This is the first kind of event that works well. The second kind is training. We have an example, it's Capgemini, for example, which have an internal university and to which put this our tools for all their trainings, because they have very dense content for these trainings. And they used polls, Q&A, a lot of things, so that the content could be well memorized by attendees. And the last category of people are companies that have a strong digitalization strategy. Of course, you have all technological companies like SAP or software companies, but we have also banks, for example, BNP Paribas, which is a big bank, which have a strong digitalization strategy. And they want to put this kind of tool on all their meetings, not just because it's good for the meetings, but it's a way for them to convey the values of digitalization to the whole company, transparency, contribution, so that all the managers can apply these values in their core business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Afner, you take a very strong point by saying that the future of meetings is digital,
yeah.
And I'm sure that you have this point to engage the audience and to get some responses. I'm sure there's many people that have ideas about this. I, for one, hope not, because we love face-to-face meetings.
Yeah.
I think they will obviously never go away, and I think the next speaker, Gerrit Heikoop, is a very good example of the nice stuff that you can do, because he's going to demonstrate a very interesting meeting format as well. Last meeting format for you to take home. Very easy to use, very applicable, with or without the help of Gerrit. So Gerrit, the floor is all yours.
All right, good morning. Can we turn up the house lights, please? Can we turn up the lights in the back? Because this next 10 minutes is all about you, and it's about making you responsible to get some value out of this session, okay? Because you've been lying there in your chair. I see you yawning. I see you checking your mobiles. Let's agree. Put the mobiles away now. We're going offline. We're going low tech. And we're going to actually get some value out of the end of this session. So lights up, please, to wake everybody around. This is the third time I asked, but he's not seeing me. So hello, pay attention. No? Okay. Whatever. We'll do it with this light. So first thing, we have 10 minutes for this format, right? I know this is the official end time of the session, so anyone that needs to leave, please leave now. And everybody that wants to experiment a cool meeting format, please stay. Okay? 10 minutes, here we go. Cool. Thanks for putting the lights up. Because what I want to do is talk about talk about a meeting format which I call Dare to Give. And Martin asked me to come and talk to you about it in 8 minutes. I was like, well, why talk about it if we can just do it? But then I would need 20 to 30 minutes. But I don't have that. So we're going to do it in 10, but realize up front it's a pressure cooker, right? We're going to touch on it really quick, and normally you would use a little bit more time to do it. So we'll skip all the parts, and we'll go straight, this me, and we'll go straight into doing. And what I want you to start with, first of all, in the next minute, to get up, because your blood flow has completely stopped by now. Get up, find a place anywhere in the room, close your eyes, and I'll time the minute, and in those 60 seconds, I want you to reflect on all the stuff you heard in the session, or if it's not in the session, maybe you heard it earlier today or yesterday, and see how you can apply those knowledge and transform them into insights into your personal situation when you get back in the office, and even try if you can turn that into actionable items, stuff you want to do. Okay? So please get up, find a spot in the room, whether it's close to somebody or far away. Get up, go stand there, and I'll clock the 60 seconds. This is your spot. This is yoga, this is Zen, whatever you do. This is your moment. Okay, so close your eyes and think back about the past 24 hours, what you've heard, and see how you can take that forward into the future. 60 seconds. All right, I didn't ask you to hold your breath, but use your brain. That went well, 60 seconds. Now let's transform this into action, right? If you look around you, you see that on a lot of tables there's these A4 papers, and there's markers. And if there's no markers at your table, look at the front somewhere, there's markers somewhere else. I want you to go back to these actionable items that you just thought of, and think to what questions you might, there we are, run into. And I want you to write your how-to question on this piece of paper. So for example, how can I, and then whatever question you need to be able to turn this knowledge into action, right? Write it down on your piece of paper, get up again, and what I want you to do next, there we go, get up with your piece of paper and start walking around, right? That's two-step exercise. Write down your question, get up, and start walking around. Keep walking. And of course, if we have anybody watching online right now, if you're on Twitter or wherever you are, you can do the same, right? Type in your question to the followers, and Kerry will moderate that discussion online, because this works very well for an online audience as well. Okay, keep walking. So you give other people the opportunity to actually read your question. And again, if you don't ask, you're not going to get any value, right? This is your responsibility. Okay, almost everybody's up. Last 5, yes, get up with your question. Okay, and if I can interrupt you one more time, because this is where the pressure cooker applies. Let me start by saying you guys are a really good crowd. Olga, if I can get your attention for a second, thank you. So normally you would let this mingle for a bit, right? And you kind of feel this is awkward, right? You kind of walk around. Some of you are doing really well. Because what you're doing now is the dare to ask part. This is good. You make your question explicit, because if you don't ask, people can help you. But if you remember, the session is called, or the format is called Dare to Give. So what I actually want you to do in the second part of when you continue, instead of focusing on your own question, walk around and try to answer as much questions as you can. If you don't know the answer, try to see if you have a tip for someone where they could find the answer, right? So actively start giving your knowledge away, because if you do that all, then everybody gets our question answered, right? Next 6 minutes are for you. That's the end. There you go. See how many you can get. Want je moet kunnen reflecteren op de sessie. So, in terms of time, who would like to continue? Right? Who feels that they would like to continue? We're not going to, even if you raise it. Just a feeling, right? Because this is the 10 minutes, this is the pressure cooker. This is how it would go, and obviously if you allow some more time for this, and people who get their questions answered, they then turn into answer giving team, right? You can really exchange some valuable knowledge. I often, at the end of this format, I do a raise of hands who got an answer, their question answered, or a valuable tip. And it's almost anywhere about 80 to 90%, so that's really cool. Another benefit could be, if you're okay with it, you could leave your question on the table, leave it around. If you then, as a meeting organizer, or I, for example, now, collect those questions, that's my market research done right there, right? Because those are the questions that my delegates are actually struggling with. So I can use that to create new content, create new topics, whatever, right? So that's some of the benefits of this format. Again, I would love to talk more about it, but 10 minutes is 10 minutes and we're already over time. So thank you very much and enjoy the show.
All right, thank you, Gerrit. This was really a nice example of a technique and a meeting format that's going to work really well. So thank you for sharing this with us. I think I have one last thing I want to share with you is the content of this box. It's yesterday at the Fresh dinner, I promised I would reveal the content of this box. I showed the box and I put Dream With Me on the screen, because I think when you look at meeting formats, you see that a lot of things can happen. by changing a few little things and applying a few techniques, meeting formats become very different. And it can be scary at the at starting, when you start with this, but I think there's lots of possibilities. But inside this box, there is something that is called the Ostrich Pillow. This is actually introducing some neuroscience in meetings, because we all know this moment after lunch when you start falling asleep. Well, this is supposed to help you to have a good nap, a good power nap with your head on the table. This is actually the junior version, so I can't put it over my head, so this is for kiddies. But there is a grown-up version of this, and you just put it over your heads. You can breathe through this front hole. You can enter your hands here, and you can put your head on the table and sleep for 5 minutes during the presentation. So that's the secret that was in this box. And I think we all need to look out for small innovations like this. It doesn't always have to be technology. I think technology does wonderful things, but there's many other things that we need to look for. And this is just one example of how meetings in the future may look very different from what they are today. Thank you for joining us today with this session, and have a good show, and maybe see you later today. Thank you.